This video is brought to you by John Robson Guitar Tuition. If you enjoy the content, please consider supporting the channel by enrolling on a course, purchasing some guitar lessons or a t-shirt, or you can join my Patreon. Now, on with the show. Hello chaps, welcome once again to John Robson Guitar Tuition. As always, I do hope you're well, and so does he. We've got a guest here today, Bottleneck Bob Bridge, and the purpose of this little get-together is to compare these two Stratocasters. This, as you can see, because the sticker's still on the scratch plate, is a Mexican Player Series Strat. And what's yours, Bob?
Mine is a 2002 American Standard Stratocaster.
Now, the reason I took Bob up on his very kind offer to let me have a little bit of a tinker and fiddle around on his lovely USA Strat is because this guitar, on paper, looks very similar in terms of spec. And we're going to hear them side by side in a moment or two. Just I've put together a little tune which kind of showcases both guitars side by side using the same settings and the same pickup selections and everything for the respective bits that you're going to hear. So I'll tell you what, before we go any further, let's have a listen and a look at that little piece of music that, as I say, we've just done with both guitars. Here it is. And if you're interested, there will be a full tab and some sort of backing track for that up on my Patreon page. There's the address and the link is in the description. It's only $3 a month or £2.50 and you get access to all of these bits and pieces that go along with these YouTube videos. Thank you so much to everybody who supports me in that way or any of the other ways, all of which are downstairs in the description. Anyway, that's the shilling over with. Let's talk about guitars. So, Bob, you've played both of these guitars. What differences do you notice? How do they compare?
Well, to be honest, and I think I've mentioned this earlier, I don't think the key difference in the way the guitars look and sound, I wouldn't be able to justify the price difference in terms of, I think that's what, 600 quid?
I paid £5 for this, but you can pay up to £6 for it. Yeah,
so 500-600. And when this was new in 2002, I know it was £1,850.
Wow.
Now, that to me, I couldn't justify the difference in quality of the American. There are some significant differences, and we'll talk about those. But the difference, I don't think, is justified in the price, to be honest. And the way they sound, again, slight differences. The pickups of these are a bit hotter in the standard. Those pickups are fine. They sound amazing. These are just a little bit hotter. Well, technically, these are supposed to be custom shop pickups. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. I've no evidence to support that.
Well, I mean, two things I'd say there is, one was that as I was mixing that track that we've just heard, you were saying, so when does my guitar come in? And I said, well, we've been swapping back and forth between the two guitars,
exactly.
As we've been going through. And so you, familiar as you are with that guitar, were not noticing the switch between that one and this
Absolutely.
one when you were listening to the playback. I'll say that as well, when I was recording, certainly when I was mixing it, the pickups on that thing there are just twice as loud as the pickups on this one. Okay? But, that's why you have a volume control on whatever you're plugged into. You can adjust for that. But those are significantly hotter pickups. They don't... it's weird. You'd expect with hotter pickups that they would drive the amp harder and have a kind of start distorting earlier. But both guitars, as you saw in that video there, because I'll edit this in later, both guitars that you saw in that video there, I was playing through exactly the same settings in Guitar Rig. It wasn't like I was having to back the gain off to clean that guitar up. It was just, the dog's barking at something. It was just, those were louder for some reason. So that was the main difference I noticed. What do you think about the difference in feel between the two guitars, Bob?
Well, I think, from my point of view, I obviously prefer this, but then I've been playing this for a lot longer.
Yeah.
I'm used to it. I've got its idiosyncratic changes. I'm used to those. I suspect the reality is that it's because I'm used to this guitar that I think I prefer this one.
Yeah.
The reality is, if this was stolen next week and you said, right, you can have this one and borrow it till you get your insurance through, Bob, I think a week with that, and I'd probably find the same sort of a circumstance.
Yeah.
The key difference for me, I think, is where I think the trem arm on that's a little bit flimsy, and it doesn't seem to sit as I like the way this. I can move that, and it just stays where I put it. The finish on this with the things like the string trees, the roller tree. If I bought that guitar, I would have to swap the tree.
Yeah, that was it. I did debate whether I was keeping this guitar a little bit. I'm not. So if anybody wants to buy a very nice Stratocaster, I would be getting rid. Let's see if we can kind of get it there. I'd be getting rid of that butterfly string tree and putting one of those on, because they are pennies to buy.
Absolutely.
And it would just seem, silly not to do it.
And I'm not sure what the tuning pegs are on that guitar.
They're just. Let's have a look at them side by side. Actually, let's hold them up to the camera. So this is the US Strat, and this is the Mexican Strat here. US. Let's try and get the glare off the camera. Yeah. I mean, they look identical, to be honest with you, but whether the gubbins inside is identical is anybody's guess. Interestingly, I'm not... The main difference in sound I noticed between the two guitars was, as I said, the pickups on that one are hotter. I wasn't noticing a great deal of difference between, let's talk about the elephant in the room, maple versus rosewood fretboards.
No, and I've always had this sort of thought in my mind, and if you notice, all my other guitars have got dark woods on the fretboards because it's a preference of mine. I think that my interpretation of the way they sound is they're a bit more mellow.
Yeah.
And you get a sort of a deeper sort of which I tend to like, and I've noticed that you tend to be a little bit more, harsher sound with the maple.
It's a brighter sound, I would argue, with a maple board, but turn the mid-range control on whatever you're plugged into a couple of notches either way, and you can compensate for it.
Absolutely.
I prefer the feel of that fretboard because it's timber. This maple fretboard is. I said this in the last video I did with this guitar that I've never played a neck like this, where you've got a beautiful satin feeling back to the neck and a really heavy gloss lacquer on the fretboard. You can probably see there that the reflections in the gloss lacquer there. It was so glossy that when I unboxed the guitar, I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, have they put that clear plastic, that goes on the scratch plate, have they put that on the fretboard for some reason? Obviously they hadn't, why would they? But it did kind of, for a couple of seconds initially give me that sort of look, thinking, that's really glossy. And I do prefer the feel of timber under my fingers rather than a gloss lacquer.
So, I was going to comment on exactly the same thing. The lacquer on that one, for some reason, it seems to, I don't know, maybe it's just my fingers or whatever, but I can't get the bends as accurate as I can get it on this particular.
Yeah. So. But that said, I mean, this glossy lacquer does give it a very, slippery feel. You'll have noticed in that little piece of music there was one part where my fingers did their usual kind of twiddly sort of stuff that seemed to creep its way into most things I play, and this is a good neck for doing that kind of thing on. It's...
the neck profile isn't a lot different, is
no,
it?
I mean, do you want to just swap for a second? Let's... yeah. I mean, you could put a blindfold on and, somebody hand you this guitar and without even touching the body, you'd kind of put your hands on the neck and you think, yeah, it's a Strat. Yeah. It's got that sort of Strat neck profile. I'm not very au fait with C profile versus D profile or anything like that. I can just about tell a V profile neck, but this is it's a comfortable neck. I can't imagine anybody picking up either of these guitars and thinking, oh, this doesn't feel right. They do make some nice necks, Fender. What do you think?
You know what? As I said earlier, the price difference. Were I to be spending my own money again, I'd be looking at that, not this.
And on that bombshell, we shall wrap things up there for today. Hope you enjoyed this little episode of the Chuckle Brothers.
To you.
To me. None of the Americans will get that. No. Anyway, thanks for watching, folks. As I say, the tab for that tune from earlier is up on Patreon. There's the link in the description. And I'll just take this opportunity to say have a good day. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your time. Look after yourselves, folks. Stay well, stay safe, and above all,
stay sane.
Take care. Bye for now.